Welcome to all three of you, and let's get started. So, the topic for this conversation is the future of AI. The future of AI is sovereign, a strategic dialogue on innovation and trust. So, we've talked a lot about the sovereign cloud. It is the topic of today. Of course, we have touched points on AI as well, but now we're really going to deep dive and focus on sovereign AI specifically. I would like to start with the first question for you, Sören. So we cannot not talk about AI, so this is what we're doing here. Sovereign AI, just like we've had the conversation on what is the definition for sovereign cloud, what is or could be, or what is your definition of sovereign AI?
Yeah, thank you for the question.
You're welcome. You're very welcome.
Everybody wants to know. So I only can give my opinion to this topic, and I think we had this before in the other talks and in the panels today. Sovereign or sovereignty is a more political expression, and I think this is a good way to think about this topic also, because when we're talking about AI, I think it's more important to think about the data. So for me, this is thinking about when we're talking about sovereign AI, it's about thinking about the data you're giving to the AI and having a structure on the data, and also deciding about the technology you're using later on depends on the data. So when we have a look on the development of cloud infrastructure during the years, I think we have in the first years, some kind of a cloud rush. So if I was talking to customers, to CIOs, they were saying, we have to go to the cloud, we have to use a hyperscaler infrastructure. And later on, they were more thinking about the business value add, what about the data, and what is the business need, and what is going on behind this. And I think this also evolved in the industry and also in the mind of the CEOs. And I think this is also something that has to happen regards on AI technology. And it's more important because, and we already see this in the market, when you're giving data to the AI, you have the possibility, everyone else, if it's a shared AI model, has the possibility to get knowledge of the data that used to train the AI model. So if I get, for instance, my very specific business data into in a public AI model, it's maybe not the best idea. So sovereignty in regards to AI is, for me, a question about data sovereignty, I would say.
Mm-hmm. And how does it differ from the AI services that are currently offered by hyperscalers, concretely?
Yeah, I think the services we have from hyperscaler basis are shared models and shared platforms, and this is a quick way to have a technology solution to use AI in your specific business need or business process you want to implement. And I think we are in some kind of a hype cycle when we are talking about AI. So we have lots of movement in the market, lots of hype regarding this topic, and I think now we get little more thinking about what makes sense as an AI use case in regards to the business and the business value I want to achieve for my company and for my customers. And so, I think this also depends on what platform I'm using for business, for which business case. And in this regards, I think we will have all those platforms also in the future. So it makes sense to use a hyperscaler platform also for infrastructure, from some kind of infrastructure, and also a sovereign platform, as we also heard today, for some kind of infrastructure. And on the other hand, it makes sense to use the hyperscaler AI and the platforms you have today for some use cases, from business use cases. And on the other hand, I have very specific data, or maybe I want to use inferencing to enhance an AI model. Then I will use, or highly suggest, to use a sovereign AI environment.
Thank you. Martin, what do you think about that? So what are the concrete risks that organizations can face if they're using hyperscale AI for sensitive or regulated data? Is it the same conversation as with sovereign cloud, or is it different? How so?
It's certainly related. So my view on this is that the hyperscalers have done a fantastic job of making these services easy to consume. They've, it's a matter of clicks, point to the data, point to the algorithm, click and go. And they've done a really good job of that and making it accessible, if you like, to most people. But that is public data. That is still training on public data. And I think of it three different approaches, really. You have the public data approach, which we're all familiar with. We probably all use ChatGPT, and we've used Gemini and others. You put your prompt in, and that data is used to train the model as it goes along. That data can be queried from other people, and it's used to extend that model. You then have the approach that we probably see the most of from a sovereign perspective, which is where you take an existing large language model, you take that data set, you bring it into a private infrastructure, into a sovereign cloud infrastructure, air-gapped maybe, or certainly under your full control, and then you either do inference upon that, or you do some sort of RAG architecture or CAG architecture, so you can train and enhance that model based on custom data that your business needs, but you then feed that through the large language model that pre-existed. And that's probably the most common approach that we see at the moment. And from a Broadcom perspective, our solutions are largely based on that. And then you have your build everything from scratch yourself. There are customers out there, there are institutions and organizations out there who have to build these things themselves and have to use their own capabilities. And until recently, we thought that building large language models took 10,000 GPUs and 6 months and $100 million to do. But actually, it turns out that's probably not going to be true going forward. We're going to be able to do this with a much lighter touch. We'll be able to language models will be able to be combined. They'll be able to train on each other, et cetera, et cetera. So I think the third of those options is something that we'll see growing. People building their own models based on a small GPU farm, and continuously inferencing that data. But that would be, again, totally private, totally based on your data. The input data is your data. The output data is your data. It's all controlled in this ring-fenced environment, whether it's sovereign or just air-gapped. And those are probably the three standard approaches that we're going to see, at least at the moment. And as I mentioned earlier on, things are changing continuously with this. There is definitely a hype cycle going on, and we're seeing a huge amount of investment, a huge amount of push, and everyone wants to create the latest, biggest thing. And how useful that's going to be, well, let's see. I'd rather see things like Gemini and ChatGPT be more established before we try and think about what's next. But we're not quite there yet. And if you've seen some of the responses from Google's AI overviews, when you Google something and some of the responses completely inaccurate and hallucinations or whatever you want to call them, it's very, very common. And I think we have a reasonably long way to go. We're probably 10 steps into a 5K race, really, when it comes to this technology. We have a long way to go, and we do have to be cautious that we don't push too hard in the early stages and make mistakes.
Yes, absolutely. Katarina, please go ahead. Please feel free to...
I would like to ask the audience, who of you invests in playing, adapting AI as a POC already?
By show of hand?
Who has a business model? Oh,
just a few
you do
hands.
not invest, but you have a business model? Yeah. Cool. But I guess it's for all of you, like everyone talks about it, but when to invest, how much, and with what outcome? You do?
Yeah, we do it. We have a big developer workforce.
Can we maybe hand the mic quickly, if possible? It's for our online participants to be able to hear you as well. Yes, sir is over here. Yeah.
Yeah, we invest in AI and we use it daily. We have a bigger development workforce sitting in Cluj, Romania, and they're using our data center for faster development, the programs the customer needs. And so they are based on AI to fasten the development process.
Cool. What
It works quite fine.
what hypervisor do you use?
Llama 3, I think, in a 70B model, something like this, and with a normal Dell host and I think a A100 GPU card inside. And nearly all our developers also have MacBooks, and they have for certain customers which we do not use our data center AI, they use the Apple processors for doing it locally on the Mac. So they have also the LM Studio running with their recording AI models.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what's your name?
Alex Studio. Yeah. SAG, yeah.
Oh, thank you.
But also
Thank
service
you.
provider.
Yeah. Cool.
Please,
Just to have
Katerina,
a
let
f-
us know
just-
your point of view. I mean,
Just to have a feeling.
yeah, no, it's totally fine. I was also meaning to ask your point of view about that. So, what is sovereign AI? What are the risks of running sensitive or regulated data on hyperscalers? Yeah, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, maybe I could close the gap.
Yeah.
As we had, I think it was like it were 3 questions in one. Yeah. So what does Plus Server already do, or what does Plus Server plan to do with AI? Well, we have on both platforms, so there is VMware-based cloud and the OpenStack cloud. Both of them, to be honest, we have still our POC running. Thank you for your support on the VMware environment. And additionally to that, we have a product based on the OpenStack platform. And the third question was if we offer, please correct me if I'm wrong, if we offer day 2 operation algorithms that are based, not yet, but this was definitely what I thought about, because I think that this could really make developers more efficient. I think this is, as I think to all of you, this is everyday struggle to have efficient technicians in your team, to have good technicians in your team, and to let them do the important work and to reduce this manually efforts. So not yet, but let's exchange contact. Then I will call you or my sales colleague. Yeah.
And if you want to go to the end of this, the third question in the 3-in-1 was,
Yeah.
is this transferable to other EU countries?
Oh, I wouldn't for now. I mean, maybe I'm too young and too naive, but I would say, why not? I mean, it's always about the requirements and the end customer or partner or institution. But I would say it's always a try and to go this journey together.
So when we had a little bit of a conversation before this panel with you, Katerina, you said, I don't see that in the next 10 or 15 years we will work with no hyperscalers at all. Why would you think so? How is that so?
Yeah, I think I didn't count how often we have already heard today that it's not a battle against the hyperscalers. I think it's more about what I already said, that every one of us has like a deep understanding of our business models, how we operate our business, and that we have a clear understanding about the requirements for each workload, where to host it, on which payment model, and what flexibility maybe is also required, and what data is processed and stored for that workloads. I think in future there is a good coexisting possible, but it is up to us to operate it in a sovereign way, and that means for me that we have a clear understanding what is important and what maybe where there is this gray zone and where it's definitely not good to store, I don't know, for example, health data in a shared hyperscale environment. Yeah.
Yeah. Be selective about the data and which one to store where.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sören, I'm back to you. As this session is meant to be very down to earth, very concrete, because you have already experienced a lot with AI and with customers. My question is the following. How do you enable clients to deploy and run AI? So for instance, large language models and so on sovereign infrastructure, whether it's on private cloud or on premises?
Yeah. So we have, as we've seen in what Christian showed before, we have a very big customer who's have a very big customer in the health industry. So
we're talking about Kubus, right?
We're talking about Kubus, yes, right. And they are also using AI technology for longer now, and so it's part of the platform. They're using this for their customers, and so they have also the need for taking care of the data. So taking care this is anonymous data used for special knowledge and questions and maybe statistics they want to have from their customers and so on. So one part is to have a separate platform. So we have this sovereign environment especially for this customer, for Kubus, but we also have a sovereign AI platform for other customers. This is also possible to use on a shared basis. And sometimes as a sovereign AI starting point, and later on, and this is also maybe interesting to know. All the customers are in different states of using AI technology, and I think we saw it from your question to the audience. Maybe someone has a business model, and what Alex explained is very reasonable. So when you're doing software development, it really makes sense. And there are also some other business processes today where it really makes sense to use it. And I think in the near future, there are coming more and more opportunities when we are thinking about the Model Context Protocol, for instance, where you can use much easier agentic AI and so on. So all the customers are in different conditions of using AI, also our customers, and we have different platforms or different situations where they join our platform and where we can help them. So one part is the platform, the other part is having enough people with consultants with AI knowledge, and this is the other part. So talking to the customer, talking about the business case of the processes they want to solve with AI or they want to enhance with AI, and building together a solution with them. So normally technology or platform is not the problem, it's more about thinking about the data and the use case and the business value add for the customer.
Mm-hmm. So clearly platform and technology on one hand, but also and certainly the consultancy and the expertise on the other.
Yeah, that's really important.
Okay. Which sectors, in your opinion, stand to gain the most from sovereign AI? And this is still for you, Sören. We've talked about the healthcare industry, healthcare insurance. Which sectors, according to you, would gain most from this?
Yeah, this is, I think, Yeah, I only can think about the customers I have nowadays, so I'm not so focused on specific industries, so I'm more or less in different industries from customer side in our company. And there are different use cases which they are using today for AI. Some of them using it for development, as we heard it, so enhancement for development, and others use them as statistic enhancements to get more out of the data they are still collecting. Some ones are using it for advancing or accelerating business processes. So maybe we have this robotic process automation for no longer time, and this was one gap you can close in automation. And sometimes for some customers, the AI technology helps to close another gap from when you are looking at a complete process and business chain of their business to their customers.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Katharina, back to you. So we heard this morning about the impact of sovereign cloud, and I'm putting sovereign AI in the same basket, especially, for instance, in the public sector, also healthcare, also finance, potentially. So my question to you is, how do you also, on your hand, deploy, train, and operate sovereign AI models while preserving IP and maintaining operational simplicity?
This was a long question, and the day was so long. But I think I have the point.
Yeah.
As those sectors are highly regulated, there are several processes that are implemented that need to be documented. They need to be in like monthly or 2 week cycles also be reported. It's a huge to do, let's call it, on additional efforts on it, but still it's you can handle it. But I think in this phase of setting up such setups, there is a lot of preparation. And also coming back to this session that we had before, there we have partners and strong partnerships. We go together through such bigger setups. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Coming now a little bit to the regulation side of things, and Martin, I'm going to be back with you in a second. I just want to come back to Sören for a second. At Arvato, question, how do you ensure compliance with regional data protection while delivering AI solutions?
Yeah, okay, this is... I think we had this in the panel before, or on the other topic here on the stage. In the end, it's the decision about the data is in the hand of the customer. So what we can do is we can help them with several techniques. We have several possibilities, technical possibilities, but the customer is absolutely responsible for the data and also for deciding what is allowed to do with the data and where they can be stored and so on. So we have the possibility to deliver several technical solutions for this and a wide variety of technical solutions. But I think more important is to have a talk to the customer, what makes sense in regards to the business and to the data.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Martin, how are data sovereignty laws and upcoming regulations, and we're thinking here, for instance, of the EU AI Act, how are they shaping the need for sovereign AI strategies?
So it's making everyone having to think very clearly about what the implications are of implementing AI technologies within their application stack. The AI Act, which is been implemented in multiple phases, will certainly have an impact on applications that get deployed both both within a sovereign cloud and in public cloud providers. It's there are many people out there, and it's quite a contentious area. There are many people out there that think that even things like ChatGPT wouldn't comply with the AI Act. So there are still a number of open questions about the interpretation of that act and how it'll be implemented in various areas. But I think the key element of it is that it's a first framework globally to try and define exactly responsibility around trust when it comes to AI, resilience when it comes to AI, and make sure that there is some thinking that goes on from an implementer's perspective about how it should be interpreted. I mentioned this earlier on. I think we're moving very, very quickly in this world, and people are very excited about implementing AI solutions, and don't always have a great understanding of what they're looking for from that. What insights are you trying to get into your data? There are some very obvious things around predictive AI, but with generative AI, we're seeing examples of some of our cloud providers building tools to do RFP quotes. When they're getting a quote in, they want to be able to automate the process of building out that RFP. They want to do translation services, for example, using large language models. All of those are great ideas. But how we implement them, I think we do have to be thinking very carefully about the fairness and the ethics around that. And that's really what it comes down to, is ensuring fairness, ethics, and compliance with that. For most data types, the AI Act is not particularly intrusive. It's only when it comes into personal information, and individual information, that it starts becoming a bit more intrusive. It's a multi-tier approach. So I think what we'll see initially is, a lot of caution when it comes to using that private information, whether it's bank information, whether it's personal information, whatever it might be, within these applications. I think we'll see a cautious approach initially, because I don't think yet it's really clear how it'll be implemented.
Mm-hmm. The EU AI Act is the first kind of regulation that came out in 2025, if that's right. And there's a second part that is coming later this year, the Cloud and AI Development Act. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, that tries to bring together, the multiple elements of legislation, effectively. So at the moment, we're dealing with the Data Act, we're dealing with EUCS around security and compliance around security. We're dealing with the Cloud Act as well. Sorry, so many of these legislations, trying to remember the names of them. But the idea around the Cloud Development Act is to bring all of these together across the framework and make them easier to implement.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. About the public cloud AI service, what is the value proposition of deploying AI in a sovereign cloud environment versus using a public cloud AI service?
So I mentioned this at the very beginning. I think the hyperscalers have done a really good job of making it very easy to consume those services. And it doesn't take a few years ago, if you wanted to build some AI, you wanted to build some machine learning or deep learning capabilities, you'd be out looking for data scientists with some really, high level of skills around mathematics, coding, etc. Now, most people with a little bit of skill can come in and actually build these solutions themselves. You don't necessarily need a data scientist, particularly for the most simple solutions. So they've certainly done a good job of making that very consumable, making it very easy to use. But that's not in itself differentiating. People who are building and innovating on differentiating solutions are typically building their own solutions when it comes to AI, whether it's on sovereign cloud or any other infrastructure, because they need capabilities that typically do not fall out of a box by clicking next, next, next. Think of this from an autonomous vehicle perspective, or think of it from a robotics perspective. These algorithms, these capabilities are unique. You're building them for a specific purpose, and they're not as simple as just pointing to the data, pointing to the algorithm, and clicking go on a web portal. Mm-hmm. So I think the hyperscalers have done a good job, but when it comes to innovation, I don't think it's particularly helpful for companies who truly want to innovate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that answer. Katarina, we've touched point also a little bit on hybrid and multi-cloud strategies. How does Plus Server support sovereign AI workloads that span on-premise plus cloud VMware? Like, how do we avoid data spill, basically, and ensure regulatory compliance when it comes to this hybrid and multi-cloud strategies?
Yeah, it all comes back to the requirements and the setup of customers or partners, and also to have like a status quo and to look what the future will bring to their business model, and how to keep those workloads secure and isolated that needs to be secure and isolated, and define during this comprehensive consultancy phase that we have at the beginning of such transition phases, understand which workloads can be moved or transitioned to modern, secure, but maybe a public environment. But it's always like it's each customer's custom setup. It's, I think, a quote of the day that there is no one solution fits all answer to that.
Yeah. Okay. What would you consider are the main barriers that prevent organizations from adopting sovereign AI?
As I already mentioned, from my perspective, is like if you are completely not doing sports, you are completely not training, then you will not jump into this AI journey or into this AI games. And what I mean is that if you have not a clear, structured infrastructure in a modern setup, or at least you have the idea how you go there in I mean, not in 3 years, this will be difficult, because then you have like an island of new world and your business model in an old world. So you have spendings here and there. So I think to have this homework done is needs to be the first step. And then the second step is to have a clear understanding where AI can optimize your business. So not playing with AI because AI is there, but to have clear KPIs set for specific cases and build specific solutions to optimize them, so you have like measurements before and after, and you really can see what was the value that comes from this whole AI invests. Yeah, so like to have a trained body to be able to adopt innovation, plus to have an clear understanding where and how to adopt it, and what are your key objectives you want to achieve.
Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily, let's say, about a skills gap or budget, or even though it could be that as well.
They come also with it.
Yeah.
And of course, depends on the organization or the company. You have always the struggle to maintain your business as it is now, then have free space for your engineers or, I don't know, customer engineering teams to learn, that they are also trained when new things come along to adopt them. So you always have this struggle between daily operation and adapting new technology. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely an IT modernization journey as a homework first, and going for it intentionally, not just playing around. Okay. We've talked about this a little bit before. Martin, do you believe that a sovereign AI approach would or could sacrifice access to the latest AI innovations or at scale? It's always about how efficient, how digitally advanced can we be or remain?
Yeah, I think, as I said, I touched on that a little bit a moment ago. Truly innovative solutions require custom models, custom algorithms, custom ways of working. But so it comes down to what the requirements are of the end customer. But I think we're going to see more and more of these solutions being built in sovereign clouds, in private clouds in general. Anyway, you talked a little earlier on about what industries and of course, there's some obvious ones around government, defense, intelligence, healthcare, security. But critical national infrastructure is key here as well. And certainly in the UK, there's a mandate to bring a lot of critical national infrastructure back into private and sovereign solutions. And that, the electricity grid, for example, is an example of that that's happening right now. And they require AI solutions, generating electricity using nuclear power and other mechanisms, and balancing the power between renewables and wind farms and nuclear and the gas that's used in the UK. That's done by an algorithm decides where to generate power and where it's needed. So those types of solutions will need to be built on-prem and in private sovereign solutions. So I think I don't think this is a big risk. I think it's easy to say it's simple to build a solution in Azure or AWS, and that's true. It really is. But when it comes to these key requirements, critical national infrastructure and healthcare is another going to be a big example of that. I think we're going to see massive innovation there based on AI capabilities built on private infrastructure.
Perfect. And speaking of innovation and looking ahead, what are, and feel free to add if you want to, what are the emerging trends in AI? We've mentioned one earlier. I won't say it. Maybe you remember. What are the emerging trends that we see in AI and sovereign cloud that organizations should be aware of to stay ahead of the game in this very fast evolving landscape?
So we're seeing a range of evolutions from an architecture perspective, how to build the solutions, and from a technology perspective. We've just seen so many startup companies come to market with new solutions, new ways of doing things. From my perspective as a technologist, it's very, very difficult to keep up with everything that's going on and what might fit where and how it all fits together at the end of the day. So I believe we will see a huge evolution simply because there's investment there. We're seeing huge investment in this field, and that investment's there because people think that they will make money eventually out of it. So I think we will see this grow. We will see lots of new, agent-based and MCP-based and all of these other capabilities that are almost coming along on a weekly basis that you have to, get onto YouTube and figure out what they mean. And how they all fit together. But there is not one solution, and we've talked about this all day long. There is not one way of doing things. It comes down to the requirements of that customer and how they want to use that capability to grow their business.
Yeah, and maybe in my opinion, when we had to start off AI technology, then the hyperscalers or the hyperscaler-based model were delivering the best technology experience in the beginning, and everybody thought, this is the future on this platform. And then I think it was the Llama model coming along, and it was not so bad as when you compare to the OpenAI model. And then DeepSeek came along, and so. I think this completely changed the game. So we had the best model on the hyperscaler platform in the beginning, and then we have the best model on the sovereign platform. So nowadays, in the beginning we had this argument, and you have to, if you want to have and use the best model, you have to use the hyperscaler platform. But nowadays you can choose, and you have the possibility to choose. And I think I agree on this what you said. We will see the implementation of the MCP protocol also on the sovereign platform, and I think nowadays we have the possibility that both sides will evolve in the same speed, and I think it's very interesting.
Any thought on AI agents?
That's the new phase. That's what we're going to hear all about for the next 18 months to 2 years. Is this model of building using agents? And I think it's really interesting. I think it has huge capabilities and potential. But again, it comes down to what are the requirements and why do you need the agent? What is the agent going to do? How is the human going to interact with that? How do we actually, make sure that it's ethical in its decisions and its algorithms, etc. So there are lots of questions, but I think that agents are going to be the next conversation. The MCP architecture, I think, is from Google. I think that's going to be quite big as well over the next couple of years.
And I think it is very interesting. So with this MCP, you have still the possibility to use a prompt. For instance, when you're using Blender, you can just with the prompt you can do via Blender a complete 3D model as you like, and also for the other applications. So for me, it's an interesting question: do we need these agents? Or maybe it's just MCP for the applications we still have, something like this.
A topic to discuss at next year's edition, most probably. Thank you so much. I believe this concludes the conversation on also the need to foster collaboration between AI solution providers, cloud infrastructure companies, and regulatory bodies, all in order to advance sovereign AI initiatives. So thank you very much to the three of you for taking part in this conversation.